So they said they're just, 50-50. It was no big deal. But all of a sudden now, with the pressure that's coming on the Yemeni community, it's forcing the people to take a bigger and stronger stand. So last couple of times I was in Iran at conferences, we had whole groups of people from Yemen. And at that time, they were already fighting. Okay, some of the fighters were there also. So what do we find? Who's behind that war? Who's getting all the money? The Americans are making fistfuls of money and the British by selling weapons to Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia is using its extra money, well, not extra money, but all of its other wealth to buy weapons, right, to fight against the people of Yemen. And for what? The richest Arab country in the world fighting against the poorest Arabs in the world, right? And they both Muslims. And when they hire fighters, they hire them from Sudan and all the other Muslim countries. And since these guys are so poor, they go there and fight. And all the billions of dollars that they spend on weapons, they could be spending on uplifting the masses. The schools that they bomb, they bring back diseases that have been dormant for decades. All of that happening in Yemen right now. And why the UN don't say anything? Because it's Saudi Arabia doing it. Who's Saudi Arabia? The friend of America. Why can the Zionists do anything they want to the poor Palestinian people? No, because they said they're going to build 800 new homes just the other day. It's Netanyahu. Well, they can do anything they want because they're a friend of America. So right now, the biggest monster in the world against Islam is this monster here, led by the Zionists. Led by the Zionists. They're the ones that are equipping and aiding and assisting fitna all over the world and the Muslim world against us. So what does it tell us? Don't fall into no disputes against each other. Right here, we might be cut off from all or most of the Muslims here in America because we maintain this position, and we're going to keep on maintaining this position. We are not going to allow Saudi Arabia, we're not going to allow America, we're not going to allow Netanyahu to design a program for us. We're going to stick to this program outlined for us in the Quran. It's Hidayah. We say, Ihdina Sirata Mustaqim, lead us, guide us, and put us on the straight way. Isn't that right? And that's what it say, and that's what we're going to do. When you do that, you have to expect that you're going to be, we call it encirclement and suppression. When you do that, you're going to have enemies popping up here, enemies popping up there, and enemies inside of you who work for people outside of you. But we follow this, never fall into any disputes, lest your power depart and it goes away. And remember Allah often, and remember Allah much, that you may prosper. If you want to be successful, Atiullah, Ati Rasul, and follow what Allah and His messengers say. In the meantime, we have to also have certain other characteristics. I want to talk just for a second or two about tafweed and rida. Tafweed is delegating all of your affairs to Allah. And it's not necessarily your plans and your strategy, but you put everything in Allah's hands. And when you do that, miracles start happening. And a few things that you have to, that don't mean you're going to have a big party. Allah may give you stuff that, oh man, I turned my affairs over to Allah. Allah did this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but this down here, oh my goodness, you may not do this, but that's good for you. That's where rida comes in. You know, like you say, radiyallahu anhu, all of that. You are pleased with, you like, you welcome that fitna. This is what tafweed is. That you turn all of your affairs and your whole movement, if you're in South Africa, if you're here in the United States, your plans and your mechanisms will not solve your problems. If you want relief, turn it all over to Allah. That don't mean that you absolve. No, I don't do nothing. I don't get up. I don't study. I don't work hard. I don't organize. No, you do that. But you do that based on knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with you in anything that you come in contact with from then on is good for you. So if it's ease, you're going to like that. Don't worry. But if it's challenge, you have to face. That's also good for you. So that's why we refer to, or it's referred to in Islam as tafweed, delegation. You delegate all your affairs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And rida, being pleased with what Allah sent to you. Now here I just want to mention a few things about what you hear about America. We have a mission here in America, and it's definitely a mission because everybody in the United States, every big group and all of them, they know where we're coming from. Everybody knows. It's clear as a bell. But we, in this phase that we're in, say like after a 40-year phase, we went into, say the last 10, 15, 20 years. We said that America needs archivists, people that will collect and archive all of this information. Who's who, what's what, how they affect each other. So this is what we've been doing, is we've been archiving all of this that's happening in America and around the Muslim world. It's like a documentalist that you document this incident, that incident. And so you become a recorder, really a chronicler, a historian. Because we realized years ago that the people will have to understand in detail what's going on. And we didn't see nobody hanging around long enough to tell the story, the details. So we said, this is going to be our job. So we accepted as our responsibility, As-Sabiqun, we call it As-Sabiqun movement, As-Sabiqun liberation organization, whatever you want to refer to it. But it is a liberation organization. It's a laboratory. What we're doing in America right now is we are in a laboratory of Islamic movement studies. We're studying it daily. If you go through a lot of our lectures that we've had, you'll see that we have been pinpoint accurate about studying everything we're involved in. I wanted to call when they had the thing downtown about a week ago.
Oh, right, yeah.
I wanted to call a friend of mine in Iran. This friend of mine was here for quite a while. He was doing a little research on America and everything. So the brothers asked me to take him around, and we took him all up to Boston and all around, and he he took pictures all the time. And we even would be sitting right out here. We're in Southeast Washington. Now this is in the 90s, I would say, 92. So he'd have a camera, and I would be explaining to him. Okay, I would be saying he'd had a camera. Now this brother looked white. He looked like a Swede or something like that, but he wasn't. So he had his camera, and he would be taking pictures of right out here almost. And I'd be saying, well, they're selling dope. He's buying dope. He's doing this. He's doing that. And we did this all on Capitol Hill. We went, those are congressmen. Those are senators. This is the greatest hall of liars and criminals in the world. This is where they live. You know, this is what they do. And I would explain, you know, a little bit about Congress, a little civil history, you know. Right. Congress do this, Senate do that, the you know, the Supreme Court, you know, all of that. We just told them about America, you know, the three branches of government, executive branch, you know, the legislative branch, and what have you. And we told them all of this is what they do here. And this is who they are. When he went back to Iran, he made 12 videos. And they put it on TV, a 12-hour, you know. And they made him the chief of, he's still the chief of, y'all would know his name if I mean. He's the chief of all of that. Now, during that time, we was over on 8th Street in our little Masjid. And he'd take pictures of me working out and talking. And I told him about America. I said, no. And he remembered when he came here 15 years ago with his movie on Jesus. Look, he said, everything you said has happened. Because I told him, America will not be destroyed from the outside. It will self-destruct. Because there's no power, you know, external power that can come and physically challenge it. And if a power externally came, it would only unite the people inside, you know, to fight the outside power. In fact, that's a tactic, that if you losing ground in, you know, inside your place, you'll find your outside enemy, which the United States they always got somebody they don't like out there, right? Always. If it ain't the Russians, it's the Venezuelans, and the poor Iranians or Iran, or the Shia, or the Lebanese, all that. So that's a tactic in the U.S. If they don't have an enemy, they'll find one. When Russia fell, or the Soviet Union, the next day or the next week, you saw the green Islamic flag, you know, on Newsweek and all this, the new, and they just know, they know what they're doing, the new enemy. Anyway, no, they do that. So I told the brother that in America, it will be destroyed from the inside. When we saw the people storming the Congress down there last week, the first thing came to mind is, he ought to give me a call and ask me how that happened. Because that's the second stage. By the time he made his movie on Isa alayhi salam, which must have been 15 years ago, something like that, and he came here and showed it, well, this is our masjid now, this is a bigger masjid and everything. He said, everything you said then has happened, but now it's doubled up and happened. And we would like to explain to our friends what is going on, because when our friends look at what's going on in America, they get a different idea. We had a couple of programs piped back to Iran. They said, and the brothers were saying, but aren't the people, I see those beautiful faces, talking about white folks, of course, in the Black Lives Matter. I said, Black Lives Matter? That ain't nothing. I said, Black Lives Matter is so infiltrated that we don't have hardly nothing to do with it. And the people down there definitely don't know, they didn't even have an agenda. Like we was going down there giving lectures on teach-ins. What is a teach-in? That you teach the people why we're here, how long we're going to stay, if necessary. What are we trying to accomplish? How much challenges do we have to face in order to accomplish that? What are some of the other possibilities, right? If a people have those many hundreds of thousands of people out on the street and they don't have no reason why they're there, Black Lives Matter. That's all they were saying. Well, you see how many people they've been shot since then. So Black Lives Matter couldn't be making no big input on nothing here. But the reality is, when our brothers see things that are happening here, they need some input from here on what that means. That's why archivists, documentalists, historians, right, chroniclers are important. And the important thing is that they be from here. And they've been here all the time. Okay, so just like y'all in South Africa, especially the Africans, right? You knew everything about white folks. Why? Because you was working right in their house. Everybody working in their house was black, right? They worked in their house, they knew the kids, they knew everything. In fact, their kids was probably raised more by the blacks, like the nannies here. They knew everything about boss man, okay? So I would like to say a little bit on, for the people of South Africa, maybe on the next speech. There's a lot of things that's happening in South Africa that you may not even be aware of in South Africa. You're aware of drugs, you're aware of AIDS, you're aware of all of these other things that are floating down there. You're aware of a lot of the fitness between the various groups in South Africa. Well, why wasn't they there before? Why didn't you have drugs floating all over South Africa during apartheid? Because they didn't want it. Why you have it after? See, we've been through the drug thing here in the U.S. They broke the back of the black movement in the 60s with heroin. And they sent all the revolutionaries to jail or killed them. You're in Cape Town, go back several years ago, when I was there in 98, and you know who was hosting us? Let's say it was Paget. Okay, now Paget had a good idea, but they wasn't operating. Well, I don't want to get into it. I went to the court down there, and every court I went into, they had some of the brothers was going to court. It reminded me of 1968. My partner who I was with at that time, I said, this is 1968 in the United States. Exactly. All the not only information but advice I gave was exactly fitted for 1968. Brothers was driving off in vans, and the van would blow up. They would say, well, the guys was fixing bombs in the van and it blew up. Like they blew that boy up. All kind of stuff like that was happening. We appreciate our discussion today because no matter what continent we're on, we're in the same struggle. We're in the exact same struggle. If y'all remember, about that time, Somalis was supposed to be the bad guys coming and blowing up stuff in South Africa. Right in Cape Town, I'll think of it in a minute, it was 98. Just look on the thing and you'll remember yourself. But there was bombings and there was other things going on in South Africa. And all kinds of fitness was going on. It didn't come from anywhere but here in the United States of America. We appreciate it's an honor for us to speak to you today because we hope that from time to time in the future that we will be sharing more and more of our history, because the history in the United States and the history in South Africa and the history of the Islamic movement. So you got to look at the history of the Islamic movement. It started with civil rights, started with freedom rides in the 60s. Then it evolved to black power, black liberation, right? And then Islam. There are many things happening in South Africa that are very relevant to what is going on with us here. So we share this common history and this common brotherhood. If you see, after apartheid, how much trouble you have. Imagine, we've been so-called, the 60s was back 50 and 60 years ago. They're still shooting black people down in the United States. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So remember, oppression, apartheid is the same as segregation. It doesn't mean any different, you know. So this is, whether it's apartheid in the Zionist state of Israel, right? The separation of the people. The Zionists are getting vaccine right now, right? And the Palestinians don't get nothing. It's the same thing. They take your land, oh, this is the good land, we want that. And you, we want you over there, out of the way. And just imagine, right now in South Africa, if the law is still the same, if you buy some property you can own what's on top of the land, but you can't own what's in it, because they don't know how many diamonds, right? How many minerals, and all that is there. Hopefully some of those things have changed, but that's the way the law was. So I'll leave you with this. Victory of Islam over the Shah, and victory of Masjid al-Islam over the combined forces of American Zionism. Our mission is one, to reestablish Islam, and for those who are not Muslims to have Islam in a favorable position as a liberating way of life, as a way of life that leads to oneness in God and oneness of humanity. That's what we want to do. We want to influence the direction of change.